Students of law are often introduced to the problem of legal interpretation by referencing a simple law. The law states, "No vehicles allowed in the park." This is such a basic law, yet it gives those responsible for enforcing the law a great deal to think about. What does this law allow, and what does it prohibit? Our first case involves somebody who owns an off-road vehicle and who drives across the park between his home on the north side and his job on the south side. This is a large park, and driving around takes him quite a bit longer. Yet almost everybody would say that this is clearly prohibited. The individual in this case would be and should be found guilty of violating this law. For our second case, a resident of the town is having a picnic by the lake in the center of the park when the individual suffers a heart attack. The lake is a good distance from the edge of the park. Does the law prohibit an ambulance from entering the park to get to this person having a heart attack? It's clearly a vehicle, and the law says that vehicles are prohibited. Would the ambulance be prohibited? Our next case involves a young teenager who lives on one side of the park and takes the bike to school on the other side of the park. Is this prohibited? Note, the law doesn't say no motorized vehicles in the park. It says no vehicles. So the fact that the bike doesn't have a motor is not relevant to its being a vehicle. Are bikes allowed in the park? If bikes are prohibited, should we also be prohibiting skateboards, scooters, and rollerblades? And what about those shoes with a wheel built into the heel? Are those vehicles for the purposes of this law? For our fifth case, a couple comes into the park pushing a baby in a baby carriage. Are they to be denied entrance? If a baby carriage is being permitted in the park, what about a horse-drawn carriage? What about a horse-drawn wagon with a team of 6 huge horses? And then what about the riding lawnmower or an ATV with a trailer that the park has been using to haul equipment from one end of the park to the other? Are these now prohibited? We see from these examples that there are a number of borderline cases with no clear answer. These ambiguities allow judges to write the law they want to write. If a judge is annoyed by kids on bikes, skateboards, and roller skates in the park, the judge can rule that these are vehicles and have them barred. Whereas a judge that's a parent of several children may interpret the law as not intending to include these vehicles. What is a judge to do when faced with this type of ambiguity? Now, this isn't a question that one can answer by knowing the law, since the very problem is that the law doesn't clearly state. This is a question in the philosophy of law. In what follows, we're going to be focusing on a particular set of problems in the category of legal interpretation that's concerned with the interpretation of the Constitution.